Welcome to the Dark Side Revelations podcast. My name is Jonathan. That is Alex. Lewis Hamilton is moving to Ferrari in 2025, and today we are talking about Darth Maul.
Yeah, just gonna get the news right out of the way.
Yeah, dude, I was. Okay, today we are talking about what if Maul did not die fighting Obi-Wan. This is kind of a sequel to our last episode where we talked about what if Qui-Gon survived and Obi-Wan died fighting Maul. But today we're going, what if Maul survived? But first, there's quite a bit of Star Wars news unrelated to Formula One.
Sadly.
First, yeah, but there's a lot of Formula One news this week. We'll start a podcast. There's an Ahsoka adaptation of comic book adaptation coming out. It's exciting. They released a little video about it. It looks nice. Like they showed some of the artwork. It looks really well done. I don't have the release date here, so I can't tell you that. Another big thing is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I said that so wrong. Won Best Score Soundtrack for video games and other interactive media. That's cool. I mean, I didn't really pay attention to the soundtrack that much. I don't remember it very, very well, but
yeah, I thought the music was pretty good.
And then the Saturn Awards were hosted yesterday, I think, or recently. And it was a big night for Lucasfilm. First off, Andor won Best New Genre Television Series. The Bad Batch won Best Animated Television Series. And then finally, just Lucasfilm related, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny won Best Fantasy Film, and Harrison Ford won Best Film Actor, and John Williams won Best Film Music, all for that movie. I didn't watch it. I've only watched the first Indiana Jones, so Harrison Ford's getting pretty old now.
It's an Indiana Jones movie, for sure. So it's extra corny, but I personally didn't care for it.
Okay.
It's free on Disney Plus. If you have Disney Plus, go check it out.
Yeah.
And if you got a couple hours to sit there and watch Harrison Ford run around, it's all right.
Yeah.
I will say it's better than that garbage movie we watched a couple
Rebel
months
Moon?
ago. Yes. It is better than Rebel Moon. So if that's the bar, it's a good
That's funny. And then Bad Batch, again, it's coming out 15 days or 14 a week from when 2 weeks from when this podcast comes out. Jeez, I said so many wrong dates. 2 weeks from when the podcast comes out. That's exciting. And then finally, something big that just came out a few hours ago from when we're recording this, is there's a collab with Rocket League and Star Wars.
Yep. So from the 7th to the 21st, and the 21st is when Bad Batch is released. They have what they call Mandalorian Mayhem going to Rocket League. So you'll be able to complete challenges to unlock Mandalorian-inspired skins, vehicles, wheels, all that. They did a similar thing, I believe it was last May, where it was Rocket League, where it was droid stuff. But this year is the Mandalorian one, and most all the skins just look awesome.
Yeah.
And what I'm most excited for is the Whistling Birds goal explosion, because that just sounds so cool to me.
Yeah. It all looks very nice. There's a article out on StarWars.com or on the Epic Games blog too, which the Epic Games blog has actually most of the pictures and more descriptions. I'm very excited for that. Definitely gonna have to re-download Rocket League, get my rewards. But that's all the news Star Wars related. We're gonna get into the topic now, which is what if Maul did not die fighting Obi-Wan. So we're gonna kind of break off at the same point as we did last week, which was actually we're gonna break off a little bit earlier. I'm pretty sure. Where I think we were gonna take this is what if Maul didn't start the fight, right? What if Is that where we're going with this? Like, what if the fight didn't happen first and he stayed alive?
I mean, we can go that route. I'm going to say that the fight would have happened, but it wouldn't have resulted in his death. Maybe Qui Gon's death. That's kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, we could do that.
so, what like the first question I wanted to bring up is like, let me give just a little bit of backstory on Darth Maul real quick. So Darth Maul is he's from Dathomir. He was the child, the only child of Mother Talzin, and their species is called the Zabrak or the Zabrak, and they're not born looking like red and black and all that. Um, they're born just regular skin. It is colored. It's either yellow or red. Most of the for the males, it's yellow or red. The females, it's usually like that stone gray, white color.
Yep.
Uh, but at the age of 1 is when he got the tattoos all over his body.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like they're tough, man.
That's crazy.
That's nothing to scoff at. And he was chosen. So at the time, the excuse me, the Night Sisters and Palpatine or Darth Sidious, I guess, not Palpatine, Darth Sidious. They had a deal, right? They would work together, kind of like the old alliance or whatever. I don't remember exactly what that's called. I
Yeah.
think it's the old alliance. Um, and Palpatine took interest in him as a young child and saw that he was force sensitive a little bit more than the others because inherently the Zabraks, all of them are force sensitive in some way. But he was more force sensitive, probably due to the fact that he was Mother Talzin's child. And he chose him to be his apprentice, took him away from his mom. I don't remember what age he was, but he was really young. And started molding him as his apprentice, right? He was the first apprentice that Sidious ever took. And he actually took him to, oh, I can't remember the planet now, but there's a planet that there was a huge Jedi Sith war, and it's the one that got glassed. Do you remember that
Oh,
one?
the trapped one
No, the
that
one
they
where they
just
had
obliterated.
the Kyber what? Yeah, the one that they had the Kyber weapon on, and they just
Oh,
wiped
yeah,
everything. So
yeah.
he took
I
him
don't remember
there,
the name.
and he made him breathe in the ashes of the people that were there, and that caused him to have this crazy vision. And it's he like in the vision he felt all the pain, and he developed an insane hatred for the Jedi Order because of that. So that was his first seed of hatred, other than being pulled away from his mom.
Yeah.
Um, but Palpatine wanted to um, cultivate that, right? So one of the things that he did is so Maul knew about the grand design. Like he told Maul, Palpatine told Maul everything. He was completely read in. And because of that, he wanted to make sure that he wouldn't go and outright attack the Jedi because the second you do that, the whole galaxy is on your radar, right? So what happened was there was a Jedi that got captured and was being sold at a slaves market, essentially. He went in, interrupted the sale, and stole her, and with the intention of fighting her and killing her, because that's what he wanted to do. All he wanted to do was kill a Jedi. He wanted to get that notch in his belt.
Yeah.
And again, this is something that Palpatine forbid. So they get hunted down by these bounty hunters because they stole something from an auction. The Jedi and Maul team up to fight off the bounty hunters, and then they fight each other when they're done, and obviously Maul wins.
Yeah.
So that was his first Jedi kill. I don't remember her name, but it's not important. Um, he goes back to Sidious, and he's like, "Yeah, I knew you did that." I knew you disobeyed me. I knew you wouldn't kill the Jedi. But Palpatine was happy about it because he knew that he was willing to be defiant enough that it was useful. So then we fast forward just a little bit, like it's like a couple months later, is when Qui-Gon finds Anakin on Tatooine, and Maul gets dispatched to go deal with these two Jedi that are in the far outer rim, right? Normally,
Yeah.
no one just goes to Tatooine, like it is out there.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, it was killed on this backwater planet. There's not surveillance, there's no Imperial presence. Cakewalk, right? Obviously, not so much. And this is where we get into the discussion now is since Maul knew all of these things, right? Palpatine was going to keep him around. So that's where most of my opinions come from is the idea that he is his chosen apprentice. He doesn't want to separate with him and he wants to grow the order, the order of the Sith and conquer the galaxy with him at his side. So now we go to the battle where Maul gets cut in half and he falls down the elevator shaft. For those of you that don't know, he uses the force to grab onto a ledge and like crawls out of there. He crawls into a trash compactor and he gets taken to a planet that's literally just used for trash. And that's where he gets his spider legs. I'll get into more of that later. But I personally think that the skills that he had developed were not sufficient enough to actually defeat these two Jedi, the Jedi Master and the Jedi Knight that um, Obi-Wan was. So he would have fought them, realized that he was going to lose, and then he would have left. So
Uh-huh.
I'm saying straight out the gate, there was no reason that he should have died there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, what if he didn't go? But it kind of make I don't know why he wouldn't go.
He was sent.
Just
It's like Palpatine
yeah,
sent him.
yeah, he was sent there, so I don't know what reason he would have to not go and fight the Jedi. So, um, hmm, yeah, I mean, it would have been logical for him to leave. Heck, if he just jumped down the trash chute
Yeah, he could have
himself,
just
yeah,
fell down and again just grabbed onto some ledge and walked away.
yeah,
The Jedi were not going to follow him
yeah. I
because
mean, it could have been as
unlike
simple as that.
Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon doesn't walk into traps.
Yep, yep.
And they're like, "Well, that sucks. Let's go back to the ship and go report this to the council." That would have been the end of
Yeah, and
that, right?
we'll plan something and find this
Yeah, we'll
Sith
figure
Lord.
out who this guy is.
Yeah,
So the next piece is Maul gets, he gets cut in half. He goes and he builds these new legs, drives himself absolutely mad on the planet, like literally loses his mind. He
yep,
sustains his existence through hatred until Mother Talzin sends Savage Opress to go and find him because she saw a vision that he was still alive. So Savage goes and finds him, brings him back to Dathomir. Mama gives him new legs, which is not a joke. She actually gives him new legs
yep,
because he had the spider get up that he created, and then she built a regular bipedal setup, which actually made him about 15% taller than he was before.
That's funny.
So, what I wanted to knock at first, so like if he hadn't died there, we never would have um, Darth Darth Tyrannus.
Yeah,
Dooku would never have become a Sith.
yeah, that brings up. I mean, I think that's the first logical thing we talk about here. Um, So I don't think any I don't think there was any dark side influence in his decision to leave the Jedi Order. So I think he
No,
still would have left the Jedi Order, unless there's just I don't know. Maybe they'll bring it up later. I don't know. But he would have left the Jedi Order, and then what? He would have just been count of the planet and done his thing.
yeah,
Lived with
like
his
that was
family.
his whole bit. He was the count of whatever that planet is. Like I'll look it up here in a minute, but
Yeah,
he was the count of that planet. He left the Jedi Order to go and be the leader of that planet, and he started the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Again, he wasn't a Darth at that point.
yeah.
He was still just leading his planet, doing what was best for his people. And the
So
only reason that Palpatine even sought him out was because he lost his apprentice in Maul.
do you? I think he still would have been. I don't know. Maybe he probably still would have been sought out eventually, right? Just join the Separatist cause at some point, right?
He started it. He started the Separatists.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
Hmm.
Dooku did.
Yep. Yeah.
And that wasn't at the direction of Palpatine or anything like that. He was his own independent person at
Yeah.
that point. So, like, I
So
personally think
then,
that we wouldn't have Dooku. So then that brings us to the next Zabrak person of Asajj Ventress, right? She was the Sith assassin sought out by Dooku to be his apprentice. She never really got that far.
yeah,
Would she still have been sought out by Maul and Palpatine? Because Maul would have had a lot more hands on knowledge of who she really was, because there wasn't a lot of people on Dathomir.
yeah. Um, I don't, I don't remember the backstory of Asajj. Was she already had ties with the Force,
Yeah, so
like just
every
naturally?
Zabrak, every single one is force sensitive. She was slightly more force sensitive than the others, but not by a lot. Not the way that Maul was.
Yeah,
And it's important to point out too that Savage Opress, until he got that Super Saiyan power boost thing that they show in Clone Wars, he was a pretty regular dude. He was just a big dude,
yeah,
but then they gave him that power up, right? And then he got even bigger and stronger, and the the Force adept portion of him also got stronger because of that. That's the main reason that they did that.
yeah, yeah,
It was bringing him to Maul's level almost. But Asajj was slightly more force sensitive, but she also had she wasn't really big on being a night sister. She
yeah,
didn't want to have the whole we live for eternity kind of a thing, like we are one. She
yeah.
wasn't she wasn't big into that. She wanted to leave Dathomir.
Well, she did.
Right. I mean, whether she wanted to or not, she left.
So then, what's her fate? Is your question?
Yeah. Does
Um,
she join the Sith as an assassin, which she was?
yeah,
She was an actual Sith assassin. That's hard to say. Would she have, if Maul had ever taken out um, Palpatine, would she have been number two,
yeah.
or would they have left her alone entirely?
I think this first brings up the question of what did Palpatine and Maul want to do with the Sith? Were they going to stick with the rule of two, or were they going to grow? Were they going to? You think they would grow back to a full size again?
So Palpatine's vision when he took the Grand Design was to sustain the rule of two and control the galaxy. But then clearly at some point it shifted to, like we talked about, the rule of one.
Yeah.
So let's say the rule of one never happens.
Okay.
I think he would absolutely maintain the rule of two, but having a larger Sith presence was clearly acceptable to him. Right? You look at
Yeah.
the Inquisitor protocol, right? They had at least 15 force sensitive dark side users. You can call them Sith, whatever you want, right?
Yep.
Um, Clearly, he was okay with it. So I would say, yeah, he would be growing the Sith kind of in the ways of old, but they definitely wouldn't be as large as they were in the old history, right?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be conquering entire planets. It would be more of a executive and political level control force, right?
Yep. Then I would say yes. She would still do the same thing. She would become a Sith assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the point of Maul and taking Palpatine, at least in the state we saw him, I mean definitely not, right? He would
No,
lose that completely. Um, and from what we saw him in the Clone Wars, he never got much better.
no. Once he lost his mind, he was never really he wasn't the powerhouse that he was before,
Yeah,
right? But he didn't really get the chance to fight anyone other than those two.
he got to fight Obi-Wan, but we know how that
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he fought Obi Wan,
went.
and again, he fought. That's how he died. Is that he fought Obi Wan?
Yeah.
But like, he just keeps fighting Obi Wan. Like, yeah, he fought
Well,
Ahsoka the one time.
he does prove himself on Mandalore pretty well.
Oh, absolutely, because he controls the syndicates, right? That's when. That's after he gets his
I'm
new
not even
legs.
going into the syndicates yet. I'm going into the still a Clone Wars show. When he takes Mandalore back, he fights and he wins a duel against Obi-Wan, right?
Oh, he does. That's right.
Yeah. And they're like on the
And then
ground
that's
while
when he
he
kills Satine.
yeah, it is. So like clearly he trained more there and he
He
got
trained
strong.
more for sure, but he was also leading the Shadow Collective at that point, which is when he was controlling at least one of the syndicates and Death Watch and the
Yeah.
other idiot members of the Shadow Collective.
Before we go on to the syndicates, I want to talk about do okay would with Maul staying as Palpatine's apprentice, would
Mm-hmm.
Maul have bridged that connection between the Night Sisters and the Sith like it was way back when? And it wouldn't have been Thrawn's thing; it would have been Maul's thing to bring uh, the the Night Sisters and I'm forgetting their names, the mothers, all together with the
The
Sith
Night
again like they
Mothers.
once were.
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah,
So what you're saying is, I guess it's two things. Would Maul have rekindled the allegiance or the alliance between the Sith and the Night Sisters
yep,
instead of taking it from the we're just kind of doing our own thing, but we're not going to fight you to we're actively working together. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. Just because they have like one of their own that's high up in there, right?
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's true. But again, like Mother Talzin wasn't a huge fan of Maul leaving, but again,
Yeah,
it wasn't really up to her.
yep.
So
Same with Asajj. She didn't like
there's a
that either.
respect gap there that would need to be filled, and I don't know that you can do that with one person.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
I would also think that if Maul went home and said, "Mom, here's our plan. Do you want to be a part of it?" I think yeah, he could absolutely bridge that gap that way. I don't think it
Yeah,
would ever come from Palpatine because he just comes from a completely different place of authority, right?
yep.
And
Especially
then
if they
your
get
other point,
Asajj, if they get Asajj there too,
oh
right?
yeah, for sure. Your other point was, would they be the ones to go to the other galaxy and bring the other Night Sisters to this one?
Yeah.
So, what I don't know is, do the Night Sisters know how to travel that, or was that figured out later?
Okay.
That's the only thing that would
Yep.
really need clarification for me. Because
Yeah.
if they knew that, absolutely. Why wouldn't they just do that anyway? But the main reason they didn't do it themselves is they didn't have the resources and the people to build something like that. And post Empire did.
Oh, definitely. Yep.
But also, if you have Maul with Palpatine, Palpatine has access to untold amounts of wealth and secret building power, right? He could have made that
But would
happen.
he?
No. Palpatine?
Because
No. I
Palpatine
think
at this
Maul would have
point,
gone
if
for it for sure.
okay, I just thought of this. What's the deal with the Clone Wars at this point if they can't use Dooku's resources?
That he had more than one puppet in the Separatists.
But
Like the so Sidious was in control of the Techno Union, the what are they called? The guys that fly around, they get slaughtered.
the guys that fly, there's a lot of that in
Oh,
Star Wars, man.
the bug people that build the Death Star.
Oh, oh.
Oh, I can't remember.
No, I don't remember either.
It's the planet that Dooku stays on, that Dooku's on, where Jango Fett dies, and
Yeah, I don't remember.
darn it. So he was in control of them. He had control of the Trade Federation like a
Yep.
iron fist,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And that was probably the easiest one to control. So yeah, he could have just.
Yeah, it's
I
fair.
think the Clone
That's
Wars
fair.
still would have happened. But a better question is, and we could talk about this in a different episode, is would we still have General Grievous?
Oh.
There's a lot of
I
backstory there,
I don't
but
know the backstory of
the
General
Jedi
Grievous.
went to save people on his planet, and there's basically kind of like the Mon Calamari and whatever the other people are called. Um, there was two factions warring for control of the world, and the Jedi showed up and they were lied to, saying that the aggressors were actually the defenders, and the reality was the opposite. So
Yeah.
they ended up slaughtering a lot of Grievous's people, and he didn't look like that. He was a humanoid person, not a human, but a humanoid,
Yep.
and they turned him into that. So again, that was at the hands of Palpatine. So would we have him?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
We
a
can
good
talk about
point.
that another day. Um, so I think Jonathan, for the bringing the other Night Sisters and stuff from the other galaxy, I
Yeah.
personally don't think that would have happened because they wouldn't have needed to, right? Um,
Okay.
they the Night Sisters would have been able to communicate, like Mother Talzin would have been able to communicate with the Great Mothers a lot more effective than the Great Mothers were able to just send dreams to what's her name from Ahsoka. So
Yeah.
I think if they would have
Okay.
wanted to come over, then yes, it would have got brought up. But they would have only needed Palpatine and Maul as a means to build the transport device.
Yeah, that's fair. And then that also brings up the point of the other Night Sisters probably don't want to do the same thing. They don't care
Yeah,
about what much is happening on this galaxy in this galaxy, right? So there could be
yeah.
some betrayals there.
hmm I think
That'd
that
make a good movie.
so it's a so story side note. After Maul gets defeated by Palpatine on Mandalore, he goes back to Dathomir to find that all the Dathamiris have been murdered. All the Zabraks have
Mm,
been murdered because he used his connection to Maul to find out where they actually were, what was going on, and he actually sent Grievous to murder all of them, right? Specifically Mother Talzin, but all of them.
yeah,
So if we would still have the Maul that was in the good graces of Palpatine, we would still have the Zabraks. We would still have the Night Sisters, right? and I think that they could have been used for a lot of nefarious activities, especially in the Clone Wars, since not a lot of people knew they existed. That's part of the
Yeah.
reason why Maul was so terrifying. Like when you see this, he was what, 6'4" or 6'5", red and black tattooed guy with horns, and he's holding a double bladed lightsaber. Like, what
Yeah.
is going on right now, right? Oh, guess what? There's 30,000 other ones on this other
Yeah.
planet that no one's ever heard of. I think they could have done a lot of, I don't want to say good, but good for
Yeah.
Palpatine in the Clone Wars, right?
Or
Especially
even
when Order 66 came around, they could have helped.
or even just the Night Sisters. We see it in Ahsoka what those abilities can do, right? They just constantly come back, or not, they're not revived, but you know, they just constantly come back, and there's no stopping it, right? They could easily overthrow anything they wanted to, using that magic. Let's say. Um, this does bring up our next point, which is the events of Solo.
Yes.
If you didn't know, Solo was supposed to have spin-off movies following each of the syndicates, which sadly never happened. But Maul did have a lot of Maul did have a lot of control over the syndicates.
Yes, Specifically, Crimson Dawn, he was like the legitimate leader of, but he kind of made collective decisions for the other ones.
It's like back
he like
to
set
F1.
the rules
it's
for the underworld.
It's like Red Bull and AlphaTauri. Christian Horner has a lot of say in AlphaTauri.
It's like, I'm not the CEO, but like,
yeah. So, what do you think would have happened with the syndicates then? And let's do specifically Crimson Dawn.
Okay, so Crimson Dawn. So we know that he brings in, what's her name from Ahsoka? I can't remember it. Kira. He brings in Kira to mold her into the next leader of Crimson Dawn, because he didn't have the patience for it. Essentially, he saw everything that the syndicates did as beneath him, but it gave him power, it gave him money, it gave him access to transportation. It was basically, he was there for logistical reasons, and that was pretty much it. And also to put fear into people, and he enjoyed that. And as a dark side user, he fed off that, right? So Syndicate is a good place for him. So we know that Kira was brought in to eventually lead Crimson Dawn, which she does. But that's only upon Maul's death. So I think he would have handed it off once the syndicates kind of all agreed that they were puppets of him, right? Whatever he needed, whenever he, tapped on the holophone, he said something and they did it.
Yep.
They basically became mercenaries for Maul and the Sith. That's what I think would have happened with the syndicates.
Yeah. I agree, because I don't think he would be too worried about death at that point, not going through that experience, right? It would have been a contingency plan thing. Yeah, I mean, can we just talk about for a second? Solo, you're at the end of that movie. Maul gets revealed. What a scene, though. When they reveal Maul, that is awesome.
They lock everything down and it gets super dark. And it comes back in and he's leaning over the chair and then he ignites the lightsaber. He's like, I've been waiting to talk to you.
Yeah.
Somebody says, well, it's like, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Such a power move, too.
It is, dude.
Because
it was such a good introduction.
He was on the holo long enough that Kira should have said something, and then he turned on the lightsaber. Right? It's like, I'm over here.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Such a good intro.
Really, what a great segue into some more movies, man. I
I
hope
know.
they
I
do
mean,
them
it should have
eventually.
been. There should have been another Solo movie. There was supposed to be one about Kira. Like,
Yeah. I hope they go
they could
back
have
to it
done so
eventually,
much.
but there's so much bad around Solo, even though it's an amazing movie.
Because
Except for that one line when he's Nate when he's running away to become, doesn't he? He goes to like become the part of the Empire, right? Um, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" Or, "Oh, my name's Han. What's your last name?" Solo, because I'm by
what's your
myself. That's
last name?
that's a stupid line.
He's like,
I don't
what's
know.
your
And he's like,
people?
"Okay,
He's
we'll
like,
call you
I
Solo,
don't have
Han
anyone.
Solo."
There you go.
Yeah,
It's like,
that was a really
so
stupid
there's a lot of
introduction to his
Solos
name.
then, by that logic.
Yeah.
Which honestly, you should have changed your first name at that point. You didn't have an identity chip.
Yeah.
Make it something
He
else.
really should have changed his name from Han at that
That's
point.
way too specific, man. You gotta
Yeah.
blend in.
Yep.
Obviously, that's a little more thinking than on the spot joining the Empire. But like,
Yeah.
if he knew he was gonna do that,
Yeah, so I can, well, going back to the point, I can see it becoming I can see it becoming the Nile's obviously on the top of my head. I can see it becoming a Nile thing. He controls the three syndicates, right? He has his
oh, okay,
Tempest
I see what
Runners.
you're getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just do stuff for him, right? In hand with the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
And might
And he would have
be
the
able to
same.
see him leave the Sith to do his own thing. At that point, when he
Really?
has control of three crime syndicates, I can see him leave to do his own. Is it three, or am I just saying that because of the Nile? How many syndicates are there?
There's more than three, but it's
I'm
like
just saying that
gangs.
because
Like
yeah,
there was like the big three, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
anything. But then there's just a bunch of other little
yep.
nothings. I mean, we can look. We should do an episode on the crime syndicates,
Yeah,
honestly.
that'd be a good one.
But the so I'm gonna counter that. I have no belief, no no faith in the idea that he would leave the Sith,
Really?
being the second most powerful person in the entire galaxy, to lead a bunch of drunken weirdos to do crime.
Okay. Then what
I
about
think
this?
I think he would still control them.
What about this angle? I could okay if you don't think I was going with he wanted to go do his own thing, lead his own thing, but he could still do that if he overthrows Palpatine with all these people. He could do that
That's true.
if he's still alive at this point, right? We're assuming that he hasn't killed
Right.
Palpatine yet.
Right. So like the whole premise is that we assume he's not going to die.
Yeah.
So that brings up my next point, which is what is his place in the Empire?
Okay.
Right? So we're still saying the Clone Wars happens. We're still saying they do they go from the Republic to the Empire. Um, where does he fit in? Because
What's his role?
unbeknownst to most people, he didn't exist until he fought those Jedi.
Yeah.
Obviously, he would have shown his hand in the Clone Wars a little bit more in the face, kind of a thing, if he was still at
Yep.
Palpatine's side.
Yep.
So once everything boiled down and they do Order 66 and everything, what's his place in the Empire now that we don't have Darth Vader?
Okay. Yep. Whew. That brings up an interesting topic about Anakin, but we already went into that last week.
So there's one thing I wanted to bring up since my thought train literally just got there.
Yep.
The main thing that happens for the catalyst for Order 66 is when they go and try to arrest Palpatine.
Yes.
And what does Mace Windu say to Anakin before they go?
I don't remember.
Wait here in the council chambers.
Oh, yes.
So, if he would have waited in the council chambers like he was supposed to, Anakin Skywalker would be a Jedi Master.
Oh, you sent me a TikTok about that.
I know, I saw that. I was like, wait, wait a second.
Okay,
But again,
okay.
reeling it back to Darth Maul, we wouldn't have Darth Vader. Like, yes, Sidious was obsessed with him, right?
Yeah.
But he wouldn't have needed a new apprentice because the Jedi wouldn't have kept killing them all.
Yeah. Um, so this brings up a question that I don't know the answer to. With Palpatine being the Emperor, what was Vader's job in the
So
Empire?
the best way to the best way to explain that is that yes, he was part of the Empire, but he was more of like a sovereign power entity in the idea that he had nothing to do with how the Empire was run. He had no real, this is what you need to do. Um, but he was in charge of the Inquisitors, right? That was his
Yep.
program. And he was in charge of finding younglings. He was still being used as like not an assassin. Darth Vader doesn't need to assassinate anyone. He just
Yeah.
shows up and kills you. Right.
Yeah.
There's no we don't need to do this in the darkness. Like, no, Vader did it in broad daylight all the time.
Yeah.
Like one of the best things from one of the comics is forget it, Vader, you're surrounded. And Vader says, the only thing I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. And and there's like 2,000 people there.
Oh
And
my
he slaughters
gosh.
all of them. Like so like he's almost used as like Palpatine's enforcer. He's still part of
Mm-hmm.
the official hierarchy of the empire. So like when he showed up on military bases and stuff, people feared him and respected him and showed him the, more or less the courtesy that his title is allowed. But he was also for people that weren't in the empire, he wasn't part of their day to day. Like there's people
Okay.
that thought he was just a rumor. Like you
Okay.
remember when in the Obi-Wan series when he shows up and he fights Obi-Wan, there's people on that planet that had no idea who he was.
Okay.
Obviously, you figure out real quick there's a 7'6" guy in black armor wearing holding a red lightsaber.
Yeah.
1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
But his like in his official, I'm gonna use smaller words. In his official capacity, he was like the fist of Palpatine.
Okay. So, at this point in our assumed timeline,
Mm-hmm.
Maul has control of the syndicates. There is some connection with the Night Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I could see him. Ooh, I just had a lot of thoughts at once. I don't
I
think.
could
Okay,
see him having a more public role.
I can see him having a public role and kind of. I can see him being like a general, like the Jedi were, and leading, the Night Sisters, the Syndicates, and some
Oh,
stormtroopers, right?
oh, okay,
Just because he has control of ththose groups of people. Um, whether or not
like that.
Mother Talzin would be up for using her people as warriors, I don't really think, or
So
enforcers. I don't know if she would do that very much.
I I would love to explain something real quick about Mother Talcin.
Okay.
So the Zabrak, I'm gonna call it Zabrak because that sounds better to me. The Zabraks were a female led species. So the
Yeah.
everyone was force sensitive, but the females were the only ones that knew how to do the magics,
Yep.
and they were the true leaders. They used the male species, and that's how they refer to them, the male species. Almost like they are legitimately beneath them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the women, while they weren't like in stature, they were bigger, they were taller.
Okay.
Um, so that's one thing to realize. I don't think she would have been okay with using the sisters for anything,
Yeah.
but
But
she
the
would
Knight
throw
brothers.
men at it like it's no problem.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Keep enough around to sustain the population. You can
Yep.
have the rest. And that's
Okay.
literally how she thought.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's how I see Maul in the Empire. Um, another question or another thought I had was how much if his apprentices weren't constantly being killed, and he's like, man, these people suck. I need to do this by
Yeah.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like there, I don't know. I don't really see the place of a rule of one here, just because he didn't have that. Because he had Maul the whole time, right? So there wasn't a
Yeah, yeah.
reason for him to want to rule by himself.
Right.
Um, so I guess that maybe that makes me question him just being a general, kind of leading people, because maybe they would just rule the empire together. I don't really know. This is an interesting topic, because
Hmm.
obviously they wouldn't be equals, but they wouldn't be so separate like Vader and Palpatine were
Because there was a very clear separation for Palpatine and Vader. And
all the
Vader
time.
tried to kill Palpatine all the time.
Yeah,
I don't think that Maul would have done that. He didn't hold
you
the
don't think?
resentment towards Maul, or sorry, Maul didn't hold the resentment towards Palpatine that Vader did.
Okay.
Like, yeah, he was pissed that he got taken away from his mom in childhood, but through our discussions, that point's irrelevant now, right?
Yeah.
All he wants is power and influence, and cool, man, you stick with Sidious and ride off into the Sith sunset.
Yeah. I think at that point, yeah, probably not. But there'd probably be some growing resentment. I would think.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
it's
that's
not
how
gonna be
Palpatine.
instant. It's not gonna be instant. It's Palpatine, right? He's got a hold
That's how
over your
Palpatine
head.
used his
It's
apprentices, right?
yeah. You got
It's
a
like the
hold
dude
over
wanted
their
to get
head,
killed.
right? I'm doing you a favor here. Why are you doing that? Like, there would have been resentments, I think.
I think once the galaxy reached some sort of an equilibrium in his eyes, that's when he would have taken out Palpatine.
Okay.
He wouldn't have
Yeah.
tried every chance that he had to kill
Yeah.
Palpatine. He would have waited because, as we've seen, as they depict in the comic books, not so much the movie, um, and in Clone Wars, he was a thinker, right? He was
Yep.
methodical,
Yep.
and he would have had a very perfectly thought out way on how to take out Palpatine.
Yeah.
And honestly, in my opinion, the easiest way to do it is when he's going to Exegol, figure out a way to make the Wayfinder malfunction. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. It's, but don't you already know the way to Exegol at that point?
He did. But you think that man's flying the plane like everybody else?
That's fair.
No way.
Yeah, I can see him using a droid for that.
And then I also think that Maul would have taken advantage of the cloning system that Palpatine was developing and used that, if not for himself, maybe he would, maybe he wouldn't. We don't know that much about his ideology on that.
Yeah.
He would have absolutely used that for the Zabraks.
Don't they already have their?
Because,
They don't have cloning technology, but at least the sisters don't really die. What's the point of that then?
yeah, but like, he would have been able to do that for the males, right?
Yeah.
And I personally just had the daydream of, can you imagine an entire Imperial Legion of Dothamir Night Brothers? Like, they
Yeah.
would look like Mandalorians, but fight with magic.
Yeah.
It's like everything that's wrong with the clones and the Jedi just together. And they're terrifying. I guarantee not a single one of them would wear a helmet
Yeah. Yeah.
because 70% of their intimidation is just the way that they are built.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. They are
Which is
scary
why I'm
creatures.
hesitant to, like, what I want to do is, like, I have a tattoo right here on my shoulder What I
Yeah.
want to do is get Maul put right here instead of that
Oh.
one. But I'm hesitant to do that because, like, like Tori has to see me all the time. Like, maybe she doesn't like Maul as much as I do. Obviously, nobody does. Like, confession time. Darth Maul is like my favorite uh, person out of anyone in the series. Like, Tori got me a ring that's his lightsaber, and yes, it is the double bladed. It's not a single.
Oh, good. So what do you see? Going back, what do you see his place in the Empire? You haven't said you haven't said that yet.
I think that he would so whether it's his idea or Palpatine's idea, they would start venturing out into the unknown territories and into the outer rim and stuff and start taking planets again. And that would be Maul's job,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
which would put him at the level of Grand Admiral.
Yeah.
And maybe he has a different title. I don't know.
Just
But
just
that's the
because he's
title that
Sith. Yeah.
exists right now. I
Yeah.
don't think he has a political position at all. He has a political position with Dathomir, and that's it. But I do think that he is a tool for violence. He is very good at it, and they would use that to expand their control.
Yeah. He's also good to scare people, right? So
Exactly.
yeah.
Somebody like that shows up and says, "We're in charge of you now." You'd be a lot more likely to say, "Okay."
Yeah. That's fair.
So that's what I that's what I think. I That was all of my like really big talking points on Maul. The only other one that I thought of during the episode was I am assuming Maul's existence without the creation of Darth Vader. But
Yep.
we know that Palpatine took a serious interest in Anakin. I'm assuming that would still happen, right?
From the beginning, right? That's why Maul went, right?
But that's why he thought Maul was dead. So was that the main reason for him taking an interest in him? But
Yeah.
for me, right now, that's irrelevant. Would Maul be the one to go and take out Anakin during Order 66? Because we wouldn't have Anakin storming the temple with clones at this
Yep.
point. Anakin would be defending the temple. Maybe he'd be with Obi-Wan. I don't know.
I don't think Anakin would make it that long. I think Anakin would have died way, way long before the Clone Wars.
You think they would have
I'm,
killed him off?
I think I think I'm not killed him off just on like a production standpoint. I think Palpatine would have sent Maul after him way before that, way before Order 66.
But then there's also the converse effect of does Maul kill Sidious and take Anakin as his Padawan, as his apprentice?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think Maul was that good a teacher. We saw that with Savage.
yeah, we did. That's a good point.
But the rule of
Um,
two is the rule of two.
if we assume, hmm, that's a good point.
Makes you think, huh?
Because obviously Maul's a very power hungry guy.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and he is smart and tactical. I don't know. I don't know when he would attack Palpatine and who that would be. Who would his apprentice be? Because then you could also say Asajj could be his apprentice.
Yeah, with that logic, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, Especially since they would have some connection already. But then
Yeah, at least a little bit.
if the women are truly seen at that much higher level than the men, that would bring
That would have been a
a
problem when
weird.
going back to our Sith stuff. That would be a problem for Asajj, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, it would have been definitely an issue in their relationship.
I doubt Maul. On that logic, I doubt Maul would have sought her out then.
Yeah, that's yep,
Maybe to use her as an assassin, like we've seen, right?
yep.
Because she had the skills and she wanted to do stuff like that. But I don't think she'd be number two.
And I don't think he would have taken Savage because I think that's just kind of like I need someone. You're the one that's here, right? Kind of situation. I don't think that was like his. If he had a choice, that he wouldn't pick Savage. I don't think. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I think yes. I think Maul would have killed Palpatine and taken Anakin just because he knew about Anakin through Palpatine. Obviously, he had some kind of obsession or
Yeah, that was
had
his
an
first mission.
interest.
Right?
Yeah.
So here's
Yes,
a
I
hot
do
take
think. I
for
don't
you.
know. I don't think it would have been around Episode 1 timeline. Um, just because I just think Anakin would have. It's
No,
just
he
it's
would have
too young.
waited. He
Yeah.
would have waited until the Jedi trained him up.
Yep.
Probably episode 2-ish.
Yep.
Before the Clone Wars. It would have happened before the Clone Wars, is when
Yes,
he would have
I do
officially
think so too.
reached out to Anakin and been like, I don't know, these dreams might be real. Um, Here's a hot take for you though.
Well, you see
Do
that with
you do you remember when Ezra and Maul combined a Sith and a Jedi holocron together?
Yep. Yep.
What if Ezra was his apprentice?
That's what I was literally just about to bring that up too because I just remember
I
Ezra
know.
existed. I'm gonna
Because
be
like
honest. How have we got the whole episode without talking about Ezra?
because that like he had like some sort of a real connection with him, right? And
Yeah, definitely.
Ezra was one of the most conflicted Jedi's to ever exist, other than baby Anakin.
Yeah. Um. When was their first interaction?
To my knowledge, it's when they ran into each other on Minthara. When I might not be saying that right. When they find each other and they're like Maul's getting hunted by an Inquisitor or two, and Ezra's getting hunted by Inquisitors, and I'm pretty sure Ahsoka's with them at this point, and
Yeah.
the three of them and Kanan, they all
Yeah.
work together to fight off these Inquisitors, and then that's when Kanan like loses, like he gets blinded or something like that.
Okay.
To my knowledge, that's their first interaction, and it's not until after that that they combine the holocrons.
Yeah. It takes a while for them to do the holocrons. I don't see Maul meeting Ezra really because he wasn't cast away, right? He wasn't trying to recover and stuff. And then by that point, right, we're in the start of the Empire at this point. I think he would have already killed Palpatine and taken an apprentice. So, we wouldn't have that connection between Ezra and Maul, because one, they wouldn't have met, and two, he would have already had an apprentice by that point.
Mm-hmm. But
I
you know
would
who is
honestly,
a
I would
force
love.
sensitive person that he does have a connection with and history before Order 66.
Wait, what did you say? So?
There's another Jedi that he has a connection with, that he
Okay.
has interacted with multiple times during the Clone Wars series, who was cast out of the Jedi.
Yep. Yep. I know where we're going with this one.
That'd be the power duo, man. Maul and Ahsoka.
Oh man.
Nasty. Obviously,
Yeah.
we know that she's a little bit more pure-hearted than that, but I feel like he could have really leaned into it.
From a production standpoint, they would definitely never do that. Ruin Ahsoka like that for the fans.
But Darth Ahsoka would be awesome.
It would. It would honestly be great. Yeah. A Darth Ahsoka versus Anakin. Jedi Master Anakin Skywalker. At that point,
oh man,
that would be good.
There's a little bit of Darth Ahsoka images on the Google. Nothing too crazy, but I do like
Not
the
nothing.
idea.
Yeah, I don't know who did he take as his apprentice, but I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Leave some questions. Let us know what you guys think here. It's an interesting topic. And if you didn't watch last week's, watch last week's, because Qui-Gon dying caused Anakin Skywalker to become Darth Vader. Just as a summary of what we talked about. So, if Qui-Gon would have survived, there would be no Darth Vader, and that creates quite a power vacuum. So, if you haven't seen our last week's episode, go watch that one. It's my favorite one we've done so far. Thank you for watching to the end. Next week, I guess we haven't planned what we're talking about next week, so look out on Twitter. I might tweet it out there. You can find all of our social medias at DS Revelations. If you're watching on YouTube, it's at the bottom of your screen. We are on Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. We are posting we're posting shorts every Monday and Friday, and new episodes on Wednesday. You can find me on Twitter at the Jonathan J. You can find him at Darth Pauling. I'm not gonna let you say it this time. And reach out to us with questions, and we can get to them in next week. We'll see you guys next Wednesday.